Right, so welcome everybody to the very first designated Dungeon Masters D&D podcast, where we go through all things Dungeons and Dragons from Dungeon Masters' perspective, from players' perspectives, from viewers' perspectives as well, I suppose. People that are in the chat can ask questions about things they have maybe some ideas on or some discrepancies about. Maybe they have a different way of doing things, homebrew, home rules, all that sort of stuff. We'll be covering all that kind of content in this podcast over the next, well, however long we decide to keep doing it, because I don't know yet.
And until it gets edited.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I'm just gonna. I'm not really gonna heavily edit anything,
No,
because
like the beginning.
Yeah.
And the end.
Yeah, just do like a little like intro splash screen thing maybe, and then like that's about it. But so intro splash screen here. Ha! We're back. Thanks for editing that, future Mitchell. That'll take me.
Edit out all my screaming when the cat comes to play.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if I'll bother. That's actually one of the fun parts of this podcast. There's a cat that constantly attacks one of our guests. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that kid, you're a star.
You're a star. You're a bright, shiny star. Rare. All right. Okay, so episode 1 of this podcast is all about character creation. So let me just here we go. We'll get rid of my camera and we'll have a look at, well, I'm just going to run through the step-by-step character creation process in the player's handbook, and then we'll talk about how that's a good and bad thing. Because the order it gives you to build isn't necessarily the best order if you're trying to make sure you don't double up on too many things. So step number 1 is choosing a race, which I think is fine as a first step. I think race gives you a lot of flavor to work towards personality. This wall of text is more intimidating than Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Well done, TFS. Thank you, man. Well, I mean, I can put my lovely face back on the screen if you prefer that, but yeah. I mean, that's up to you guys.
Face cam.
Okay, I can just face cam the whole time. I don't really mind. I thought I was
put stuff up too.
Yeah, I was trying. Oh, 2? Shit. Okay, don't give me that. All right, hold on. I'm gonna have to edit something.
Not the whole time. Split.
Can I? Hey, that's me. Hey, look, I'm there. Oh, now I'm in the corner. Oh, this sucks. Okay, well, maybe
There you go. Hang there.
Should I make myself bigger or smaller than the rest of everything? I don't know.
Well, if only we had that choice in real life.
Oh, I wish.
Enlarge, reduce, spell.
Enlarge, reduce.
When we get to the spell
the
podcast.
spell sections is just going to be ridiculous. No, you know what? I'm just going to leave that as it was. I'm going to make myself huge. You're going to deal with me on the screen at times, and then you're going to deal with just a PDF on the screen at times. Oh my god! Oh, why is it? Stop it!
There you go.
Stop that. Okay.
It just doesn't want to quite square up.
It doesn't want to cooperate with me at all. Okay.
That'll do.
All right. That'll do, pig. That'll do. All right. Okay. So back to the book. Yeah. So choosing a race. I think choosing a race is like I was trying to say, very important for determining maybe how you roleplay. Because some races have builds, like, you know, they might be large or they might be very small, which is can give you an idea of how you might want to play a character. Also, they've got certain abilities that might give you a way you like a personality you want to make a character. Plus, also,
I mean, let's be real. We all think elf pretty. High charisma.
Yeah,
let's go.
I mean, it gives you like it gives you like a basis for establishing a a stereotype, but you know, still.
I mean, that's that. Most people in our party tend to think stereotype and go in the complete opposite direction.
Well, yeah, that's good too.
But having the stereotype allows that.
Yes.
Stereotypes are a good place to start for anything, because it's like, okay, if this is what the majority of things are,
yeah,
like big dumb orc, you know, flighty elf, then you can work your way from there.
Yeah, and you can also
are you different, or do you fit the stereotype?
Exactly.
But I think I'd go one step before you do any of this stuff, like the race or anything in the book. Is you got to get your character concept.
Yes, exactly. I was about to say this very same thing. It's like choosing a race is fine, but you want to build a idea of a character that you want to try and play before you choose any of these things. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's.
I was going to say, because one of the other games that I'm playing with Leela at the moment, that's literally the first step they tell you to do. Is get a concept. Everything else is based off the concept.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same in any of the role-playing games like it, but especially in D&D.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very, very true. So concept before number one. Then number
Who
one.
are they?
Choose a race. Exactly.
What do you guys think, though?
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. The first thing I have is a concept or an image of some. Sometimes I base my characters on a character that I like in something, and I use them as inspiration, and then work from there. But that's kind of my concept. It's an image of something I want, something it looks like, and then I choose the race from there and the class. I might choose the class first or the race first, depending on which one has the stronger.
I was going to say, I kind of do things a little bit backwards. I pick the class first, and then I let who that person is come to me after I've picked the class, and then choose race. So I decide, okay, I'm playing a wizard. Is this wizard like a total book nerd, or are they street smart? Like, who are they as a person after I know what class they're going to be? I think it sort of helps a little bit to give you an idea of who they are if you know sort of what their life is up to that point.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that in the sense of, I guess it's different, I suppose. If you're playing D&D for the first time, the best idea is definitely the way John suggests, is to come up with a character concept first, then pick your race and class and all the other things afterwards. Because you haven't really played the game before, you don't really know what you want to play. So the best idea is to come up with a concept of something you want to play, and then find the thing that fits that concept. Whereas if you've played D&D before a lot, you often want to play a certain class because you haven't played it in a very long time, or you've played a lot of melee characters and you want to play a caster character, or you've played a lot of healers and you want to play a tanky character. So that, in that sense, picking the class first is a good place to start too.
I think there's 3 different ways that you can go about it. The first is to make your concept when the DM says, hey everybody, let's start putting together characters for the next upcoming game. Or you just want to go through a build and you have this idea for a character and you just make it, and then someday you'll play it. But then there's, you've been playing for a while now and you think, oh man, I really want to play that race. That looks really cool. And that's where you sort of start planning ahead based on race or character.
Yep.
And then there's the third school, which is you come into a party a little bit later and you look around and see what the party already has. And then you kind of choose, generally by class, I think, in that case, something that works well with the other party members, but isn't necessarily the same type of character. And that's where you build your character based on what the other party members have, but still something you want to play.
But I think that's something that a lot of people miss in D&D, is that it's a group game.
Yes,
you're
very
not
much
playing
so.
by yourself. And I think this is what, when we were talking about session zeros, you really, I've seen D&D and Pathfinder groups fall apart because all the party members turned up to what was the session zero saying, I'm playing this, I'm playing that, I'm playing this, let's get going.
Yeah, this isn't...
And they were all fighters.
This isn't an individual game, it's a group storytelling based
it's a group storytelling. So often all the stuff that we're talking about, like the character concept and everything, can all come secondary. Like, I mean, I've lost track of the amount of clerics or whatever I've played, because I got to say, I like clerics better than druids, so I tend to clerics.
Yeah. But
I'll get up and everyone say, I'm playing a fighter and I'm playing a wizard and I'm going to play the rogue and and everybody, and I'm going, well, party needs a healer. I'll play the cleric again. Yeah. Or the opposites happen to me as well. Like, oh, well, we need a frontline fighter. And that's where the group thing comes into it. But once you know your position in the group, then the character concept comes. Once you know what you're going to be, it still goes through that next stage of, then you get the character concept, then you choose your class, race, and they're often chosen together.
Yeah, they are. I think there's a good question as well from the Twitch chat, and that is, what if that concept doesn't exist in D&D? You always have to compromise, which is exactly what John's just been saying, is like, your party might all show up and want to be all fighters. Everyone's already decided their characters, they've decided what they want to do. They all show up to session 0. It's like, I'm a fighter. It's one person left. They're like, well, I guess I'll fill and play a cleric. So the concept might not necessarily exist specifically in Dungeons and Dragons, but if your dungeon master is a little bit flexible, they can always help you flavor things in a certain way from classes that might not necessarily work in that way. So, the base ideas of spells, the base ideas of class abilities, the base ideas of all the mechanics of the game, relatively to how much effort your Dungeon Master is willing to put into customizing that stuff, can pretty much be the same. And you can just throw a little bit of flair on it, throw a little bit of different description and flavor text, and maybe a little bit different about how some of the spells or some of the attacks mechanics or some of those things might work. But for the most part, you can create almost anything you want in Dungeons and Dragons, but it's really about melding all of those character concepts into a group that can survive and work. Because there's no point in saying, like, I've got a character concept where I want to play an evil vampire lord, and then you roll up to a D&D group where your dungeon master's like, all right, guys, we're a bunch of angels and we're going to go and save the world. And you're like, ha ha ha, I'm an evil vampire lord, I'm going to fuck with everything. Your dungeon master's just going to be like, no, you can't play that. Or he's just going to be like, no, you can't play with us anymore. Or he might be like, yeah, fine, the angels will turn around and kill you. Make a new character. Like, it's about like, combining all the efforts of the group to make the story last and make the story fun and worthwhile.
And for everybody.
So yeah, exactly, for everybody. So I would say that I don't think there is really a situation where a concept won't exist. But if it does, then it requires you working with your dungeon master. Basically, there is
a bit of
groups about anything,
and you want to do everything in one character, and you want to be a fighter who can also use magic, and you want to be really smart. It's particularly for new players who have this idea and they're like, well, I want to be Harry Potter, but I want to be able to use a sword. And it's like, well, you can't do that because we're not level 20 characters.
No, that also, there there is the Blade Singer Wizard, which is kind of that, but sort of, but not really. But you're a bit squishy. But I mean, that's kind of what it is. But there's compromises, exactly.
But I mean, another answer to that to getting back to the what if it doesn't fit in D&D? Well, you're playing D&D.
True, that's very true too.
If you want to play a sci-fi character, you got to find another game.
Yeah, he doesn't, and like
because there's sci-fi role-playing games and you can play them.
Yeah,
I mean, so you've still got to fit in with what's in the game, and you can homebrew, and there's a lot of characters that you can make up using whatever your DM allows.
Yeah,
there's a lot of flexibility in it, but ultimately we're playing D&D. It'd be like in sports saying, I want to play football, but I want to play with a cricket bat. Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yes.
It's not that game.
That is true too. So yeah, if your concept doesn't exist in D&D, maybe play a role-playing game. There's tons and tons and tons of tabletop role-playing games out there. Oh, yeah. Don't feel limited to D&D. I prefer D&D because I know it better than any other tabletop role-playing game, but that's just me. So for me, dungeon mastering, which I enjoy doing, it's easy. It's the easiest thing for me to do without having to have too much preparation time, because I work full-time and I got kids and all that other stuff, so it's like I don't have an immense amount of time to prepare everything. So that's why I generally prefer to have a system in place that I already know how to use and how to do. So, yeah.
No, you go, John.
No, I was going to say, you go, I talk too much.
I was just going to say, let's go back to that idea of a whole group of fighters. If you've got a dungeon master like me who has a lot of free time, I could probably make that group of fighters work. Like, if someone wanted to be an Eldritch Knight, fine. If someone wanted to be an Eldritch Knight, but instead of being wizard spells, they used cleric spells instead, I could probably make that work. Or if they wanted to be a fighter who, like, without having to multi-class too much, say it's not a high-level campaign, it's something sort of quite lowish, say levels 1 to 5.
Yeah, like the first
I could
tier
probably
play.
homebrew something to make that group of all fighters work, so that each of them has their own little flavor.
Yeah, exactly.
And it also depends on what you define as a fighter. So you can say, okay, we're having a fighter. You've got 2 actual fighters, a ranger and a paladin.
That's true. They're all, they all have very good combat capabilities.
And for what I was saying before, but you want to fill all the groups and play as a group. I've also seen groups where, like you said, all fighters has worked. Or like, how often do we play without a rogue? Yeah,
like, look, there's no denying that all fighters could work. It's just a matter of, like, where are you getting your healing from other than second wind? And then, like, if so, like that's cool. Like, it's fine. I think it'd be an interesting challenge to play a group like that. But everyone has to agree that's going to be how the game is going to be from the get-go, which is why, going back again, session 0 is pretty important for that reason.
And like bringing it back to the character creation side of things, as I said earlier, I often come in and I'll say, okay, well, what's everyone playing?
Yes.
What doesn't the party have? And everyone has said to me at some point or another, oh, it doesn't matter. We can have 2 fighters, we can have 2 monks, and that's fine. It absolutely is. But I don't want to play the same character as someone else most of the time. I want to do something completely different because it's more fun that way.
Yeah, it is a bit. Quick.
And also, that's also where the backstories.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Even more important if you're all playing the same character.
Haven't even gotten to backgrounds yet.
There's 3 people saying fighters, and there's 3 people, playing. Or if there's 3 people playing fighters, but I'm a criminal, you're a noble, and he was raised by the church. You're 3 very different characters, even though you're all fighters.
Yes. Okay, so I got a question. A quick question that might not have a quick answer. What's your favorite race to play in D&D? Like
Drow, but I can never be them.
Drow, but you can never be them. Dwarf. John likes dwarves.
I'm looking forward to the tiefling.
Tiefling.
I haven't played it yet, but
yeah, excited. I am like super duper looking forward to playing the changeling.
I've just always, my first character was a dwarf, and I've loved them ever since.
Yeah, they're cool. Like, they are cool. I really like dwarves too. But yeah, I think changeling's going to be one of my favorites to play. Although, it's difficult. It's difficult because some of them have some really, like, I really like the idea of the other one in Eberron, the Calisthar or whatever they are, where they have like a mind link where they can talk to people. I think that's a cool ability to have. So. Pretty interesting.
I think a lot of times, like, throwing something together, I've just kind of defaulted to human or elf just because it's easier, because I know, how to put an elf together or how to put a human together. I don't have to worry about, checking up on all of the different features of a certain race, etc. But
remembering your racial features when you play.
Yeah. Twitch chat brings up, Hutto brings up, probably Furbolg. Yeah, for their sheer versatility, I think I agree with that. Furbolgs have a lot of versatility too. They've got like they can cast like a detect magic, and they can also go invisible for like a round or whatever. And like they're huge, and they can like carry a bunch of extra shit. I think, like, yeah, they're pretty good too. All right, so what? Okay, then next question, because we've talked a little bit about classes too. So, what's your favorite class to play? I haven't played a wide variety of classes yet, but.
I like playing characters with versatility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, especially in the old editions, I used to either play rogues or wizards.
Yeah.
like, especially before they really brought in sorcerers, because I've played all the editions.
Mm-hmm.
And like in first and second edition, there was no sorcerers, so a wizard was really one of the most flexible characters because you could do virtually anything except for heal people. That's another thing with clerics. It's the versatility of having those spells. You know, party doesn't need a rogue because the cleric memorized fine traps, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, the versatility of being able to get a character and go, oh, okay, we're halfway through, and I've been doing the traps all the time because I'm the cleric, but a new party member came in and he's playing a rogue. Well, okay, I'll get rid of that spell and get something else.
Yeah.
You know,
being able to prepare from any list is a big advantage for a cleric.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I really enjoy this simple, basic fighter as well, because for the opposite reason, you don't have to worry about it. My job is just to run in and hit things.
Attack things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah. So I mean.
Yeah. You go.
Like John said, versatility is excellent, and I think everyone who's ever played with me probably knows that I have a thing for archers who can shoot spells. And you know, recently in 5e there's the arcane archer, and I haven't played it yet, but I'm definitely going to very soon because I love that idea of shooting something and then releasing a spell. And it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of physical damage, it's a bit of spell damage. It just feels really good.
Yep.
And you know how often I've played clerics.
Yeah, you've played clerics like a lot, like almost every game.
Yeah, I play a lot of clerics.
I think I really like the concept of clerics, but like Leela said before too, it's like when someone else is playing a class already, I don't really want to play that class. Like I know that with clerics it's like you get your domain at first level too, so you can pretty much be completely different from the get-go. But still clerics, so I kind of am like but I really like the fighter. I really like the battle master. I love the versatility it has with combat maneuvering that it can do. I think it's really cool in that sense. And also like you can pump out a lot of like melee, you know, damage with that thing too, depending on how you build it. But yeah, I think fighter is probably one of my favorite classes.
I don't get to play my favorite classes. I love playing rogues and sorcerers, but there just hasn't been. I'm a filler type player.
Yeah.
So I come in and fill a role because I turn up late sometimes.
Yeah.
So I end up being something else. But
I think that's
those ones I like playing most.
I think that's why I end up playing so many clerics actually.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying, I'm a strong believer in that the parties really do need a healer at some stage.
Yeah.
And generally, that's the one thing that's left off when people play. They want to play the cool fighters. They want to play the wizards and the fireballs. They want to play the sneaky rogues. And so I'm left, okay, I've got to fill the healer thing. And it's really, the best healers are clerics, druids, and then maybe bards. I don't like druids for some reason. So clerics is it for me.
I think druids have.
I'm not saying they're a bad class or anything like that, or you know, I have played druids in the past.
Yeah,
it's just getting down to the personal preference thing. My preference is clerics over druids, and a lot of people are the other way around.
Yeah, for sure, because druids bring that versatility of being able to like wild shape and you know do some other things, and they've got a few more spells like entangle and crowd control stuff as well that you can use in combat. But clerics have the massive AC from the get-go. They've got
it's not hard for a cleric to be just as good as a fighter when it comes to AC.
Exactly.
Better even from the start.
Yeah, you can be. Yeah.
A lot of the clerics have heavy armor proficiency from the start. A lot of the ones that people play the most common subclasses, get heavy armor proficiency right at the start. So
that's a lot of people when they're playing. So a lot of people when they're playing fighters though, play barbarians or monks. They actually have, when they start, lower armor class than just a plain fighter or paladin because they start with heavy armor as well. a first level fighter and a first level cleric with heavy armor proficiency start with the exact same armor.
Yeah. See, that comes down to race a little bit as well. When it comes to choosing a race for your character, dwarves do have heavy armor proficiency.
Yep.
So you automatically get that ability as a fighter or
medium.
One of the other classes that don't have it.
It's
that's one thing that I unconsciously.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's actually mountain dwarves, I think, and it's medium armor proficiency. But that means as a mountain dwarf, you could play which I've wanted to do actually. One of the characters I've wanted to play and haven't is a mountain dwarf wizard.
Interesting.
That could be cool.
Yeah, so you can run around doing all the wizard stuff in
big
medium
armor.
armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my vest plate on and I'm casting fireballs.
Yeah.
Carrying my battle axe because I'm a dwarf.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something that I kind of unconsciously think about when I'm creating a character is armor. I like to keep things really simple, and I don't want to have to fiddle around with armor. I don't want to have to question, am I wearing my armor right now? Did I wake up? Was I woken up in sleep? Was I wearing armor? Was I not? I don't know. Oh no, I'm not wearing my armor. I'm going to die now. I kind of hate that. So I tend to play a lot of characters who don't need to worry about armor. End of story.
Wizards or leather wearers that you can tend to generally
like
sleep in their
rangers.
armor. Yeah.
And that's funny. That's the reason I don't play druids, is because the whole shape changing thing. It just gets to what are my stats now?
You're like a bit fit. Yeah, there's a lot of micromanaging.
And I've got to look up bear now to see what my stats are and stuff like that. I'd rather just keep the one shape. I'll just stay as I'll just be my cleric. The armor thing doesn't bother me because it doesn't happen that often that you'll be woken up in the middle of the night without your armor on.
Less
I've seen it
micromanaging.
happen to you.
I've seen it happen. Fun? To me.
I said I've seen it happen to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the importance of backstory for a little bit. I think having a relatively light backstory is probably a good way to start, and then as you play the character more, maybe fleshing out more of the details, but not necessarily, the character shouldn't have had the most important thing in their life already happen to them before the adventure starts, because then it's like, well, where do they go from here as far as personal development and things. That you can have interesting or traumatic or funny or quirky things happen, but having just something simple like I was a farmer and then I decided to go on an adventure, that's perfectly fine for a backstory. Like, it's simple, it gives you something previous to work on. You could say, okay, well, you're a farmer. What did you farm? Where was your crop? Where was your house? What size of a village were you in? Do you have any family? Did you deliver crops to different towns? Did you, were you ever selling things? Do you know any merchants? Like, there's tons of little tiny details that you can fill in after the fact, but just having that quick one-line sort of backstory can often give you a really good hook to continue to create the background and the personality of your character. I think not having a super important thing happen to your character, unless you want to explore something specific and try and deal with it in a role-playing perspective, it might be an interesting way to do something like that. But yeah, I feel like not having something super duper important have already happened to your character as part of the backstory is probably the best way to start for new players, because that way you don't have to think too much about your backstory. There's all the backgrounds you can find in the background list, and you can kind of just pick one from there and just loosely guess one of those. But you can always make your own background. It's not a big deal. So
the thing about those really detailed backgrounds with all the intricate little details is a lot of the time it puts a lot of pressure on your party members to know things about you or remember things about you when you're trying to role play that character.
Yeah, if you expect them to,
one thing I found is that Yeah, like when you require your party members to know stuff or to remember stuff or to play off of you on things and you're expecting them to pick up on something and they don't know the background, they can't remember a detailed background for every other character. It gets really hard to continue playing. Like even one little thing that I did recently was I said, this character has no gender. This character obviously has a gender, but the character doesn't really know what gender they are because they've forgotten. You know, it's a complicated character thing, but, you know, I cannot count the amount of times the character has been referred to as she, or I have referred to the character as she even, because you just sort of get into the habit of it, especially when the player is a specific gender and the character's gender is not defined. So it's like, you know, relying on the party to remember that detail, I think, is a lot to ask. And when you get more complicated background information and you try and push that on the rest of the party, it gets really hard to roleplay.
Yeah, you can kind of bog down the roleplay if you're expecting everyone to remember all the little details of your backstory, and then it doesn't just put pressure on them, it sort of puts more pressure on you to roleplay exactly how you described that character in the background as well. Like you don't have the freedom to kind of change it when you're just roleplaying and you realize like, oh, actually maybe they're not like that anymore. Maybe they're like this now, and you want to roleplay them that way. Like, yeah.
But that's cool. That's story arc.
Changing that's exactly.
Goes fine. With me, I think background. I love making up characters, and they've almost always got a small background, like you were saying. You don't want to go overboard.
Yeah.
You need enough background to know how your character will act.
Yeah.
Like with what Lena was saying, she knew enough background to correct us when we got it wrong.
Most of the time. Or
to not, depending on what the character wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, and you can also have characters with the exact same background that will act differently. There's some characters with that background that would get very upset when you gender them or misgender them or whatever. And there's others that would just use it as an opportunity to get further ahead.
Yes.
And so I guess the background mixes in with your character's personality. But that's your starting point. When you start at level 1 and you're saying, I'm playing a farmer that became a fighter, I'm going to take the folk hero background and we'll run from there. But by the time you get to 10th level, you're sick and tired of everybody asking you to solve all your their damn problems for you, and you all just bugger off, and this is why I have an 8 charisma.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think like the best backgrounds are the ones that kind of define a character's personality innately, because it allows you to play that personality without having to remind yourself all the time, what would they do in this situation? What would they do in that situation? You have that background and you can think, oh, well, this is who they are. This is where they've been. This is how they would react. And it makes it really simple to go forward.
And don't worry too much about it if you make a mistake as you're going forward, because everybody runs against their own personality sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm even quiet. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I agree.
And then like the other thing is character arcs that happen in roleplay. So the way that you play off of other characters, the way that events in the story affect you, that tends to get incorporated into your character, and sometimes that changes who that character is. And you know, it's obviously not going to make changes to the background, but it's wise to have a background that's open to going in a different direction in the future.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We've seen that with your character.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've seen that with your character. You've and Alice is a bit. You've changed.
Yeah.
As you go.
For sure.
And then there's other characters like my bard that I'm playing that will never change.
Part
of that was
because he's shallow.
Well, I mean, Evan said the first thing I said. Evan said when I said, "Oh, my character has no personality. He's just Shale has just given up all personality to the Raven Queen in that service of pursuing memories, etc." And the first thing Evan said was, "Oh, I'll make sure that there's a personality by the end of the game." And what do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Put players and characters in certain situations, the personality will develop. There's no stopping it.
Absolutely.
It's just
But I mean, that was kind of
inevitable
the
thing.
idea. That's why I set that background of a really neutral character who had plenty of room to grow.
Yep.
Maybe by the end we'll actually have a gender.
Yeah, well.
I think even custom making backgrounds is better as well for homebrew, because it's not difficult at all to sort of balance what a background gives you or doesn't give you.
Yeah.
So if you say something, that background is the best place to give people freedom for controlling who their character is and giving them benefits for that, but not making it overpowered.
Yeah, and it helps them to connect to. Yeah.
So, okay, they know another language because they've got this background, and they're slightly better at this skill because they've got the background. It's easier to sort of balance that than try and do some of the other things that are more tricky to balance.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
And also, once you get that background class combination going, it makes it easy for a DM that's doing their own adventures, the homebrewing, to make up adventures that are based around your character. Like, it's really easy to look at, like, oh, I'm playing a fighter, blah, blah, blah.
Where's my phone?
To have another one, oh, well, this guy's a fighter as well.
Okay,
You've heard of him.
I got a literal Google Doc that I made probably a couple of years ago. Let me see if I can find it. Nope, not that one. Nope, not you. Fuck. Come on. Nope, stop doing that. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Where are you? D&D. Here we go. Background-driven story ideas. I'm going to read this off my phone because I can't be bothered to log into Chrome. So for the Acolyte, for just I'll just give a few examples, right? Acolyte, obviously religious. So here's a couple of like hooks or story things that you could play out as like a small adventure or a campaign, just for something having that Acolyte background. A separate cult is looking to undermine the religion of that player, or that that character. Or there's a prophecy of a coming tyrant forcing you to act on your religion. And then for like a charlatan, at some point you conned the wrong person and they want revenge because you disrespected them, and they want their money. Or you forged one too many documents, slipped up, someone knows it's you, and now they're trying to blackmail you. You got like an entertainer. Someone's pissed off at you because you upstaged them, and they try and like get back at you or something. Or someone is stalking you because they idolize you, and now you've got a stalker on your hands and you have to deal with that. You've also got like a hermit. Someone stole one of your very important but very few worldly possessions. Or the reason for your seclusion might hint at something even greater in your background. There's also stuff like what else have I got? Let me just scroll through a few more. So like
an entire adventure off a hermit's secret.
Yes, that's awesome.
I was running it for my kids.
Cool.
And one of them wanted to play a hermit. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, this is what you figured out where this El Dorado type city is, and the entire adventure is them trying to find their way to this city.
That's really cool. Yeah. I like that. So Twitch chat says, so all of it involves murder. No, not all of it involves murder, but it often involves people trying to murder you. Or trying to blackmail you, or something bad, obviously, otherwise there'd be no real call to action, right? So another one, the sailor. Pirates you once foiled are back to get you for locking them up and hanging some of their crewmates, or they want a treasure map that you stole off them. Like, these are really simple, like just quick little hooks that that I kind of found or came up with, and I was like, yeah, all these are really great for just for homebrew stuff that you can pull people's backgrounds from to really involve their characters more in the story than just you're here, you have to save the day kind of thing. So
but you can also do those things with classes and races.
Yes, you can. Yeah, exactly. There's not just from the backgrounds.
I guess one of the things I was kind of referring to before, though, is not only is something that D&D doesn't do very well anymore. Is contacts and followers. Like they used to have, I think especially in first and second edition, you would literally, as you go up in levels, you would get followers. If you're a fighter, you'd get first level fighters following you.
There is an amazing book that I have the PDF from that I'll actually probably link to you guys too. But it is called Strongholds and Followers, and it was done by Matt Colville at Hello MCDM at Twitter, and it raised over I think over $1.5 million on Kickstarter when they were talking about launching the book and trying to produce it, and it's really, really good. My only problem with it is it's super duper micromanagey. Like my games, unfortunately, I don't have the effort to micromanage all that stuff, but if I did, it would be so worth it.
But you don't need to go to the micromanagement phase. Like those books and stuff, they're great. I love them when you can get them.
Yeah.
But you don't actually need to go to those extremes.
Yeah, you don't need to.
You can just say, "Oh, you're a pirate fighter. That character that you're just meeting, he's a pirate fighter. Oh well, your character knows of him or knows him."
Yeah. Weren't we gonna introduce that rule in one of the earlier campaigns, where it was like, at any point in the campaign, if you guys are stuck and you don't know what to do, you can just say, "I know a guy," and that was the you can use that once, the whole party can use that once a session, and it's, "I know a guy," and he'll come in and either give you a massive hint or just help you or just outright do the thing that you're trying to do for you, kind of thing.
So it's like phone a friend. Yeah,
basically phone a friend. It's, "I know a guy." It's like, "Oh man, we really need to find this map to this wave echo cave, and we don't know where it is. Oh, I know a guy who knows about maps." And then he'll be like, "Oh, you know who knows about maps? That druid guy in the village."
Yeah.
And you'll be like, "Oh, sweet, we'll go there." Yeah.
Actually, I have a question.
I like that idea. Says the DM who literally used that idea. Well, I not in such a direct way. Yes.
Sort of going back to the backgrounds thing, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a while ago and I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly, but you had us, maybe like a year or two ago, when we made our characters, you had us write down a secret that we told you, right?
Yep.
Yeah. How did that work for you as a DM? Did you find that it was effective? I'm curious. I'm curious about how you found that as a device.
If the campaign had lasted longer, then it would have been really good, because I had already taken a few of the secrets that I had noted down and already sort of done basically exactly what I did for the backgrounds thing, which was like, okay, so this person, this secret, okay, well, I'll make this is a little adventure, this is who's involved in that secret, and these are the people that they might encounter that might have something to do with that. And I think I did it for like Dave's character and Ryan's character, because they had ones that were very easy to just create a quick hook for. So it basically the same thing, in sense of like there's an aspect of the character that I can work into an adventure without having to really think that much about it, in terms of like what might happen. It's just a really easy, like, oh well, he's actually the son of an angel, but he doesn't actually know it yet. Okay, this is easy. Like, I'm just going to make the angel come down and say, "Hi, I'm your dad." And he'll be like, "What the fuck?" Like, and
so would you say that there were things that you found easier to work with and things that were difficult to work in?
Yeah. There's some things that are definitely difficult to work in, depending on the other people in the other characters in the party too, because like they might have conflicting secrets in a way, like or they might have secrets that are almost exactly the same, and then it's like, well, how do I really do two of these things at the same time that are the same? But
accidentally link them together.
Yeah, exactly, and that was one of the plans I had, but the campaign didn't last as long as.
Same angel spreading the seeds.
Yeah, he's a goddamn hoe. He's a hoe angel.
Even just two, say, antagonists deciding to team up, and it just so happens that your protagonists did as well.
Yes.
As part of the group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So what do you guys think about okay, I'm gonna say balancing stats around an idea, but I really kind of mean min-maxing. So do you like it? Do you hate it? And what are the ways you either try and avoid it or try and work towards it? So for me, I know those things are like two completely different, basically, ends of the spectrum, right? But for me, I love min-maxing. Just because I'm a gamer at heart, so I love the shit out of min-maxing, but I find it limits the classes race combinations I can play like heavily, right? But I do really like min-maxing. I love like when I can look at a race and be like, okay, that race has wisdom bonuses and dex bonuses. Fuck yeah, I'm playing a monk with them. Or I can look at a class and be like, what do I need? I need strength. I need like charisma. All right, I'm going like a bugbear or something. You know, like whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. But I really enjoy min-maxing a lot. So, what do you guys think?
I really love the randomness of rolling, for one thing. So, I think it's really interesting because you can roll really neutrally or you can roll really diversely, and then you can sort of see your character develop a bit from there. But when I don't roll, I love the difficulties of playing a character who is strong as an ox but dumb as rocks.
Yeah.
And that becomes really fun to roleplay. You can take your vices and turn them into something that is so much entertainment.
That's why I'm enjoying my bard at the moment. He's charming as, but dumb as an ox. Does really stupid. Really should be doing really stupid things. Because he's not perceptive and he's not real smart. But he can talk other people into doing stupid things with him.
True. Yep.
I think I've said a few times, I'm not sure why the party's letting me take on leadership roles, really. They should know me better by now.
Well,
maybe they're just dumb as rocks too.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't rule that out, hey. But I mean, I get exactly what Leela says, because I've played a lot of games where it was just rolling. That was the only way you could do it. Again, first edition D&D, there was actually only a 5% chance you could play a paladin. You needed the stats, and you rolled them.
Yeah.
To get the stats to play a paladin, there was only like a 0.5% chance that you could do it without cheating. And it can make really fun characters when you have a character when you roll up a character who has an 18 strength and a 6 con.
Yeah.
Because once you start trying to explain these things.
So I actually really
but I mean max.
I really enjoy the concept of rolling for stats, but the problem is when you roll bad, it feels bad, and that's it. Like,
so,
yeah.
I absolutely agree. Sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say, I absolutely agree, because I used to enjoy rolling stats for all the reasons I was just saying. And then I played a character who had all stats that were average, not bad. You have to have okay stats to qualify as a character.
Yeah.
And one of the other players pulled out his magic dice, and his stats were like 18, 17, 16, 18, 17, 16.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
that's when it feels bad.
Oh, I know what I'm playing in the party. I'm the sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of sucks in that regard where you like, where you roll, and then it's like, well, you know, then you can just do a system of like roll 5 dice and take away the 2 lowest instead of the 1 lowest, and roll 8 stats and take away 2 low. But then it's like, but then what's the point of that? Like, if you're just going to roll an extreme amount, you might as well just use the stat array because it's fair, or you might as well just make all the characters in the party superpowered and just be like, here's a new array that's better than the standard array. None of your stats will be below 10. Everyone's fucking awesome, and it'll be fun. But then combat becomes way too easy when your stats are too good at a low level, and it's not that, doesn't feel that like satisfying when you kill a whole bunch of things or you survive an encounter that's supposed to be your level, and really you're outscaling it just out of pure stats. So
yeah,
so it's a
I'm
very
the type of person who
go.
Sorry, I play Kingdom Hearts, and you have that choice in the beginning. Do you take the wand? Do you take the shield? Do you take the sword? I want to take them all.
Yeah,
I don't want to have a weakness. I hate that. I don't want to feel like, there's anything about me that is going to get me killed.
Yeah.
But, like I said earlier, it can be really fun in D&D. And I've learned to really embrace that concept of not being good at everything. And you just have to take that and role play with it. Not just play with it, but role play with it. And when you do that, it becomes a positive. And it's so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other flip side is D&D, once again, is a group activity.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. When I'm playing the cleric, it doesn't matter that I can't fireball the oncoming orcs if I'm playing a cleric.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing next to a wizard who's another player. He'll do it. My job's to keep him alive. His job's to kill all the enemies, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as long as you're all feeling useful, the worst I ever got was I played in, it was a fair-sized group. None of you guys were in it. And I think there was like 7 or 8 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was second best at everything that I could do.
Yeah.
I could do a couple of things because, like I said, I like playing characters that can do more than one thing. So I could do 2 or 3 things. But I never end up doing anything because somebody was always better at me.
Always better than you at that, yeah.
If I could sneak, well, the rogue was better at me. If I could fight, yeah, but there's 2 fighters and they're better than me.
Yeah.
I can do this, I can do that, but somebody was always better than me at everything. And in the end, for me, it gets down to, well, why am I here?
Yeah.
I think that particularly comes into play with the abilities, which sometimes get overlooked, and you don't tend to discuss them among your party when you're creating characters so much. But I think that definitely becomes an issue when, 3 people have investigation, nobody has stealth, and
everyone has perception, but nobody has like investigation. It's like you see a big treasure chest. What's inside of it?
But the upshot of that is rolling, because sometimes people who have lot invested in one skill will then just bomb on the roll.
Yeah,
and,
it happens.
You're like, this is my chance, and you roll a critical.
Yeah,
exactly.
See, going back to the original thing, I like the point buy system.
Yeah, point buy's pretty good. Yeah. Point buy's pretty good
as far as those things go, because it's fair in how it hands out stats.
Yeah, and like Hato was saying in the chat before too, like he said he thinks a controversial choice would be the DM making one stat spread, so like one array. Everyone has to use it, but they can choose which numbers go where. That's basically like the standard array, right? Like 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8 or 9 or whatever it is. Like that's basically that, but you could like make it better than that. So you could go like it's 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 or whatever like that, right? And then everyone's kind of above average for everything, but they can choose certain stats, and depending on their class race combination, like they're going to probably have an 18 at level 1 and a 16 as well, and then probably like a 15 or like a 14, 13, whatever in some of the other ones. So like that's one way to do it, but like I said, that kind of having an 18 in anything from level 1,
really bump it up that high. I'd maybe make the 15 a 16 and maybe the 13 a second 14 would be probably about as far as I would go with that. I still want everybody to have a dump stat, like just a stat they
you're gonna have a dump stat, and your dump stat's generally based around your class, to be honest. So
yeah.
But
unless it's based around your concept, which happens occasionally when you just want to play someone really dumb or someone really smart, or that kind of thing, or someone charismatic. There's always that one person who wants to play that really beautiful elf, and they'll put all of their stats into charisma, and then they can't do anything.
Half elf. But I mean,
yeah, that's why I think like Twitch chat brings up a good point, is like I can imagine where something not being strength based ends up having more strength than the actual strength based things. It's like that's why like rolling if you're going to play a long campaign, rolling for stats if you're going to play a long campaign is not a really good idea. But if you're going to play a short campaign, it can be a fun way to introduce hindrances that your character might have because of their lower stats, that you can, generally shorter campaigns a lot of them are homebrew based, so your dungeon master can kind of look after you in the sense of it's going to be a little bit of a hindrance, but it's not going to be game-breakingly bad where you're not going to be able to do anything at all. They're going to be able to, pinpoint something that you do excel at and try and fit you into those situations so you don't feel completely useless. Or at least good DMs will try and do that. But yeah.
I think one of my biggest peeve in fantasy role-playing games in general is I like playing heavy armored characters.
Yeah.
Love it. The clerics, fighters. I'd rather play that than a monk.
Uh-huh.
But the amount of games that you play where, I'm a heavy armored fighter. I'm wearing plate mail armor, big ass metal shield,
Yep.
And there's a monk standing next to me going, yeah, but I've got a higher armor class than you.
Yeah, or barbarian.
Training. Or, the barbarian sitting there going, I'm wearing nothing. I've got damage reduction and higher armor class than you, and da-da-da. And I'm like, I know it's a fantasy game, but for God's sake, you're wearing a shirt. When somebody hits you with a sword, you should be cut in half. It shouldn't be bouncing off. And it's, and I like them, and I like the concept of barbarians, and I love that they can do those things in D&D.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing a fighter in plate mail armor, I should be the one with damage reduction, not the barbarian.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think I've had a character that's taken a feat to get it. It cost me a feat to get 3 points of damage reduction that barbarians get automatically. I'm wearing, and I know it's just, everyone looks at it, it's the rule of cool, and swashbucklers look better than knights or whatever, but it's annoying for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when you do like I said do when you compare other classes abilities against it. Yeah, I can't. It's part of my job. When you compare other classes and you look at, that's the reason I avoid some classes too, where it's like, why would I play this might be a bit controversial, but why would I play a paladin when I can just play a cleric if I need to heal? Or why would I play a paladin if I'm just going to dump all of my spell slots into divine smite? I'll just play a freaking fighter. Like, there's no reason to play a paladin in those situations, right? But like you said, if you like playing a class that has that versatility, the paladin is really, really good. So, like, I don't mind versatility, but I tend towards mid-maxing, so that's why I do tend towards just going the, one very kind of set path as far as... and that's why, like, I don't think I'll ever play a warlock, because I don't think I have the ability to only have, like, 2 spell slots, that's it. Like, I need to be a sorcerer for that, like, the meta magic stuff, or I need to play a wizard for just the sheer amount of versatility that they have as well. So, like...
So this is where it goes back to that discussion of, do you pick concept first or do you pick your class first, etc.
Yeah,
because
it does.
That's where it makes it easy to choose. Why would I play a paladin over a cleric to heal? Because that's who this character is. That's the image that I have in my head, and that's where that answer has to come from. It's the only way to go forward and enjoy the game as a paladin if you don't like playing paladins.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're sick of playing clerics.
True. That could be very true. Yep. That could be very true.
Are we hearing a statement there, John?
I think this is a future prediction.
I love my clerics, but I know the next character I'm playing is the paladin.
I hope you're happy with him. Or
but also
make a backup.
Also, something that Hato said in the chat sort of caught my eye, because I think it brings up the question of how much a party should communicate when they're making a character. So what he said was, having a rogue with a huge dex and expertise in thief tools, and then the wizard comes along and has a knock spell, and who cares if you have thieves tools or not? You're never going to use them because a wizard's always going to be there. I mean, there is that element of having a backup, and so everyone's not always going to be there every week. But having that little discussion of, hey, should I get Thieves' Tools? Or, hey, should I get the Knock spell? I think that makes a really big difference to the overall party experience.
Yes, it does. Yeah, 100%.
Well, this goes back to what I was saying before about being second best at everything.
Yep.
Why would you play a rogue if you've got a ranger that can sneak as well as you, a wizard with a knock spell, and invisibility? You know, that's one of the reasons I do like playing a wizard is I can take the rogue, the rogue position if I need to.
Yes.
But from the poor rogue's point of view, why do you want to be second best at everything? Or why do you have to start convincing the DM that he has to start using locks that for some reason the knock spell doesn't work on? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you definitely have to communicate. Communication is a huge part of it. And I think like that example of the rogue and the wizard with the knock spell is a good one, but it also shows the wizard's going to run out of spell slots. The rogue's not going to run out of being able to pick locks. Like Thieves' Tools, granted, can break and whatever, but like, at a basic level.
That's why you want the wizard with the mending spell.
Yeah, he can.
Right, so that's why it comes down to the point of them. If you have a rogue, what's the point of a wizard having a knock spell? You know, there are other spells that they could choose.
And the other thing is, this can come down to the DM. Like, if I was playing a character, if I was DMing, and there was a rogue character that was never getting to use his lock picks because the wizard was casting knock all the time, all of a sudden the wizard would stop the first time he cast knock, and it set the trap off on the lock, and the fireball went off on his face.
Yep.
That the rogue could have easily found and disabled, but he can't because he's using a knock spell.
Even if the rogue did get hit by the fireball spell, good old fashioned
uncanny dodge.
Exactly, uncanny dodge to take half damage anyway. And if he saves, he takes 0 damage. So
but I mean, even if it's not a fireball, it's like knock, and then he gets hit by a poison dart, and I have a constitution of 8. Good night.
Oh no, I'm dead.
Yeah, like
I should let the rogue do
it. The good way is to like try and basically just take advantage of each class's skills and abilities that they have at their disposal, at the same time as trying to incorporate that with their character concept as well. Right, so you might have a rogue that can quite easily pick all the locks, but he literally just doesn't want to. Like he's like not interested in what's in the room beyond the hallway, and maybe the wizard really is. So.
Well, I know all rogues can use lockpicks, but it doesn't have to be their specialty. If you're a rogue with the charlatan background, you might have taken your expertise in deception and insight.
Yeah, I thought about that.
So you can be a people person rogue, rather than
an assassin rogue versus a
purple
rogue.
Yeah, but then again, this is what you want to figure out in session 0.
Yes.
And I think the one thing we haven't touched on, because we keep talking about the unique things in single classes, but what about multi-classing?
That's John, you're hitting the notes on the head, buddy. That's the exact next thing I was going to talk about.
Okay.
I was like, what happens when you multi-class and you're a rogue wizard and you have Thieves' Tools and the knock spell? You can just open all the things.
Well, one of my favourite characters I've played lately doesn't sound like it'd be a good combination. I played a rogue paladin.
Yeah.
And oh my god, when you mix divine smite,
that's crazy.
Sneak attack, and especially when you critical, the amount of damage that poor guy. Because my character concept for him was he was actually a church assassin.
Ooh.
So he was trained as a fighter, started as a paladin,
became
an assassin. So he was actually a 3rd level rogue assassin, 2nd level paladin or something. I think.
I like it.
But the amount of damage he could pump out was just ridiculous.
Okay, the math nerd in me really wants to figure that out. So like if you crit and you're rolling like double sneak attack damage, and you can choose to divine smite after you hit, so you can double the divine smite damage. It's at least like I don't know, 3d8 plus 3d6 plus whatever your weapon is. That's a lot of damage.
Which of course has to be like a rapier. He used a rapier.
Yeah, of course. Rapier. To Google, says Fish Chat. Indeed.
Can I just take this sort of back to the fundamental question of multi-classing and smart character creation and say, sorry, going back to the rogue wizard. If you're playing a rogue wizard, why would you give yourself a knock spell?
Because
what is the point?
Because knock can open magical locks that maybe your lockpicks can't open.
I don't think knock can open magical locks. I think that was one of the limitations of it. I'm going to look it up.
I thought it was specifically for that, but maybe it wasn't. Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, smart character creation, if you're going to multi-class, you want to really maximize your skills in, the best parts of those classes as suits your character. So, doubling up on one thing seems kind of redundant.
Well, it can be, yeah. It can open thing that has arcane lock on them for 10 minutes. So there you go. That's what Twitch chat says.
It's only arcane lock. If you choose a target that is shut by arcane lock, the spell suppresses it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But if it's locked by some other means other than arcane lock.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too many other magical.
Choose an object that you can see within range. The object can be a door, box, chest, set of manacles, padlock, or other object that contains mundane or magical means that prevent access. Okay. A target that is held shut by a mundane lock or that is stuck or barred becomes unlocked, unstuck, or unbarred.
Right.
Even if the object has multiple locks, only one of them is unlocked. So it's a second level spell and every single lock. So all you need to do is get to a door that has 6 locks on it. like that guy in Skyrim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, spends 10 minutes opening the door. But you're not getting through that overnight spell.
No. Well, maybe that's why he's got so many locks, is to purposefully block people from using the knock spell. But so multi-classing, I think, is
and
really...
also it's loud.
Yeah, that's true.
You can hear it from 300 feet away.
Oh god, Twitch chat went and calculated the sneak attack divine smite damage.
Yeah.
And max damage would be like... Well, what level... Wolf, tell me what level that's at, dude, though, because... Like, what's the breakdown of like divine smite / what level are you? What level's that character? Because that's an interesting concept, but I would like to know what level they are. So multi-classing, like in general, I think is a really cool concept, but I never do it because quite often you miss out on some not important, but you miss out on like some abilities earlier on that you might not necessarily benefit from in the long run, but in the short term they seem like they're really worth it. Like, at like breakpoints when you get extra attack for a lot of classes is level 5, so that's a good place to go. Like, I'm going to multi-class from level 6 onwards, or like looking at individual classes too, because they often have different abilities at different breakpoints. So like saying like level 6 is a good one for the bard or whatever, and going like, okay, cool, I'm going to go to level 6 in bard, and then after that I might shift. Or that might become completely irrelevant, and you might just go like, you know what? I think my character is going to start playing a paladin now. Like, he has seen, he's been influenced by the god. He really wants to, start, on a different path. And those are other interesting ways to implement multi-classing as well, without worrying too much about the game side of things. It's more about the character side of things when you do that.
I think that can come down to talking about campaign length as well.
Yeah.
If you're only going to get to say, like, you talk to your players in session 0 and you say, look, we're probably going to go from level 1 to about level 10. So knowing where that max cap is, you may decide that, okay, well, if 10's as far as I'm going to get, maybe I'll go to level 6 as a bard, and then I will use those extra 4 levels for paladin or cleric.
Yep.
I think that can help too.
For me, partly it's character concept as well. You can play a character and you get to a certain point and you think, I've taken it as far as I can go with this particular concept. And, you know, this happened to me last week. We had this discussion where I said, you know what, I think I'm going to start multiclassing after level 6. We're at level 5 now. We just leveled up.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I think I want to start multiclassing after level 6 because this is as far as I want to go in this class with this particular character. She's an Amazon. Now I want her to be able to have some bow skills and a little bit more of that. Less barbarian, less anger, more strategy to her.
I get that.
Yeah, I understand that too.
It can also happen because of what happens to your character in the game. Like, say you're playing a wizard, then all of a sudden in the game you spend an entire level in like a desert or a middle of a jungle area where you almost can't do the wizard stuff, but you spend a lot of time sneaking and doing long distance attacks. So you decide at the end of it, well, okay, I did so much of that shit in the last part of the adventure. I'm going up as a ranger because in effect all my experience was ranger experience.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's definitely another interesting way of looking at it, is like realizing that what you've been doing hasn't really been being a wizard. You've actually been being a rogue, or you've actually been, you know,
being a ranger.
Yeah, being a ranger. Yeah. Or maybe
and then you get back to the city and it's like, oh, thank God I'm back in civilization, and you're back to being a wizard again.
Yeah, or you could be like stuck in nature, like you said, and then maybe you commune more with nature now and you go into druid. Or like, you know,
these things are possible.
Yeah. The only
it's all part of the ongoing part of the game.
The only limiting factor is you basically have to have a certain ability score, a minimum of 13 in whichever thing you want to multi-class into. But that's simply because the game mechanics that class uses rely on that stat, so you need to at least have something. Otherwise, it's like...
Which gets back to, we're playing D&D, 5th edition D&D, not one of the other things. And you need those stats to do it. Yeah. But like, say you were doing that with a party of 4. Well, the fighter might decide, well, I'm still going to be a fighter.
Yep.
Nothing much has changed for me. I'm just sweating more. But the rogue becomes a ranger because he happens to have the stats for that. The cleric, because he's so close to nature, takes 1 level of druid.
Yep.
Because those stats match up, that kind of thing.
Yep, exactly.
So which ones you change into when you're in this situation might depend on your stats. And the reason the fighter might decide, no, I'm going to stay as a fighter, is because he's dump statted anything he could have changed into. I've got an 8 wisdom. I've got an 8 wisdom and a 6 dex. What am I going to change into? I'll just keep being a fighter. Thank you very much.
Sorcerer? Bard?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting environmentally wise with my coming campaign. You're all going to be who you have been for the first few levels while you're still in Baldur's Gate. But once you actually reach Avernus, the environment is going to influence you, whether subtly or outright with choices that you have to make, or whether it's just because you're in that place, things start to sort of happen. So you're being influenced by hell. You may start getting more inclined to do selfish things, or
I can already see that happening with my character.
Like, it'll be very interesting to see how that actually pans out.
Look, I've already
a long campaign.
Being that I'm playing an asthma, it'd be interesting to see that for my character.
To like cut a long story short about my character is, she's a bard, but highly likely multi-classing into Death Cleric, or highly likely multi-classing into possibly a Warlock, depending on whether or not she signs a pact with the demon. Like, these are just things that I've thought about that could possibly come up in the next campaign, so maybe?
That's what my character, I'm playing an Asthma Paladin, which you would think would make good what he is, but it's not. It gets down to the background story. Yeah, he was brought up by con artists and charlatans, and that was his childhood. That's literally his background. Is charlatan. but he didn't like the chaos of that life. He didn't like the thief's life and never knowing what's happening yet. He's becoming a paladin because he wants the discipline. So it's not necessarily, he wants order.
In hell.
So it's not necessarily for my character about good, evil at all. It's about law. I think he would tend towards good because I am still an asthma, so none of my family ever really wanted to hurt people. Because, I think
being
Evan understood what I said,
lawfully punishing people.
Yeah.
I think what's going to be interesting is that my character is similar in a way because, he comes from a family of infamous villainy. And, they're a very affluent family. They've risen to power by being so evil.
Jesus.
And he just wants to be better than that. He wants to be good. And he's a tiefling. And he's a good tiefling. And now he's going to go to hell. And I have a feeling he's going to start giving in to that evil somewhere inside of him. And that's going to be his struggle. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to happen.
I think the funny thing is that my character
could push you the other way.
My character could go either way. My character could actually...
Fallen angels.
To hell, could look at all around and go, well, we've got to fix this.
Fallen angels. Fallen angels exist.
Highly possible.
Well, I mean, that's literally one of the sub races in Asmo when you look at them. There's the Protector, which I think is what my character is. I can't remember off the top of my head. The ones that can fly. Not first level.
No, like third level.
Third level. There's the Protectors.
Fallen and the
Fallen and
shit, I don't remember what the other one's called, but yeah.
Scourge?
Yeah, it could be Scourge. Yeah.
Scourge, I think. No, hang on, no, Scourge is the Fallen one.
No, Fallen's a separate one again. There's Fallen, there's Scourge. Here we go, I'll have a quick
Protector, and I think there's the one from the DMG too, which is a little bit different,
but I mean, my character could go either way. He could turn up in hell and go, nope, this has got to go. Or he could just not care about it and just keep going the way he was.
I think my character is very highly likely to be like wanting to sign a contract with the devil, so that's the thing I'm going to have to look out for.
I feel like that little non-committal sound from Evan means that he's going to try and push us. So
I
this
hope
should be interesting.
I hope so.
The sheer fact that you are there will influence you. It doesn't matter how good or bad you want to be. The sheer fact that you are there,
I hope
will
that
affect you.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've read bits and pieces of the DMG myself.
I'm gonna homebrew it a little bit, but
but basically the planes that you are on have an effect on your characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to hell.
Yes.
That's insane.
Jason.
Okay, so multi-classing, crazy multi-classing is Rapier, plus Sneak Attack, plus Smite, plus Rage, plus the Charger Feat, plus Maneuver, plus Dueling Fighting Style. Add Death Strike into that for the Rogue at level 17, and you get a max damage of 364. So you can basically like kill a dragon.
Like an adult dragon.
Yeah, like kill a dragon. Just go boop.
I think 50 odd was the best I did.
Stab it up the butthole.
I mean, the problem with that is, though, unless the rest of the party is also severely multi-classed, it's just not going to be any fun for anyone else.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. I mean, that's
everybody
like
support just for them.
That's like building a character to do that much damage once.
Watch, but it won't be fun to play.
Not necessarily.
I mean, you've also got to remember though that these things are limited in the amount of times they can do them.
Yeah.
And if you throw all your resources into one hit, that's fine. The wizard standing next to you going, I've still got 2 more 9th level spells and then I'll start working my way down. I wish you hadn't done that.
Yep. Wait.
Yep.
Did you just say, I wish you hadn't done that?
Like a 20th level wizard, I wish you hadn't done that.
Did you just cast the wish spell and he undid all that damage? Is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember, this is D&D. These things can happen.
They certainly can.
Sorry, John, that delivery was so subtle that you had me going for a second.
I love that. That's good. The wish
good
spell
job.
is...
I feel that your mod is really coming to life.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I mean, in my cleric thing that we're playing, my cleric hasn't got the absolute pinnacle ability for a cleric yet.
Yeah.
Dear God, I want you to do this for me.
Yep.
You get that at level 10.
Yep. It's pretty handy.
And the other thing with multi-classing though is you miss out on the level 20 ability. That
you do. You do. Yeah.
And they can be really, really powerful.
They can be
like, if you never change off Paladin, Barbarian, I have 24 strength and con.
24 strength and con is insane. So beefcake.
If you stay as a cleric, you've got your god on speed dial.
Yep. Once every 7 days, I think it is. But like, still.
Well, yeah.
You can automatically get a divine favor from them.
You automatically get a divine favor. Then you've got to wait a week before you call him again, which is not that big a deal.
Hey, God, smush that ancient dragon for me. Okay, boop.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, dude. I'll see you next week.
You know, like then you got the bards who never run out of inspiration because every time they roll initiative, they get inspiration back.
Oh yeah, level 20 moon druid just never stops shifting. Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, that's pretty insane.
You know, so I mean, you got to remember when you multi-class, you become more powerful as you're doing it.
You do,
but you miss those really powerful things that It's the same as if you multi-class even in sorcerer wizard, and you get to 10-10. Well, that's great, but you've only got the spells of a 10th level sorcerer. You've only got the spells of a 10th level wizard.
Yep.
You don't
I guess
know
my point is just, making sure that the party remains balanced.
Difference, you might not know the wish spell, but you can still cast those like lower level spells at 9th level and stuff. So they can still be really good, but there are higher tier level spells that you will never learn. So, Or wizards maybe.
So we've been talking a lot about like OP characters and stat selection and whether to choose the best stats for this or that because of character choices, because of basically meta reasons, etc. Something that I kind of want to ask about is spell selection, because for example, one of my pet peeves is you should pick this spell, it's really powerful.
Oh yeah.
But it just has nothing to do with the character's identity, the character's personality.
Yeah.
I really hate that. And like something that I love to do is if I'm playing a spellcaster, I want to pick spells that really vibe with that character's personality, whether they're powerful or not. Yeah. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that is amazing, and it's exactly what I'm going to do with my bard. My bard knows spells like Vicious Mockery, because it's like the bard spell and it's really good because it provides some disadvantage, but I like the fact that but she has right now
it's still a combat game. So why play a bard where you don't take the one cantrip that damages?
Like, I also chose
there's a lot of selection of, different spells that can do a lot of different kinds of damage.
I also chose I chose Bane, because the idea I had with my character is very much like a debuff style combat. A debuff style combat. So, like, basically she goes in there and just makes sure she fucks up everything everyone else is trying to do. Not necessarily deal damage to people, not necessarily like heal people, but just to fuck up everyone else's day. Like, that's her goal. Is like, oh, you're trying to do that? No. Oh, you're trying to do this? No. Oh, you're trying to do that? No. Like,
so when you get your magical secret, you're definitely taking counterspell.
100% counterspell. 100% counterspell. Like, I took sleep at level 1 because it's pretty powerful for like low level encounters. 5d8 worth of HP on like a few goblins or something. I could put 2 of them to sleep. You go over to a goblin while it's asleep. When they're unconscious, auto critical, stab them through the face. Like, you like, it's really easy to take things out when they're asleep on the ground, right? So that's like her whole concept is like, make combat as easy as possible for us, not necessarily through dealing damage, but for controlling a little bit more. So that was my theme for her anyway.
When you look at my cleric, I think a couple of the most useful spells that I picked, I almost picked by accident, because they were the ones that, I've got some spells left to pick. I'll take guidance. It looks like, okay. I'll take aid because it gives you a few more hit points. I didn't realize the damn thing had an 8-hour duration and increased your hit points, not temporary hit points.
It
makes it an incredibly powerful
it's crazy.
Spell. But I took it because that was what my character did. His life domain, he's all about healing and buffing, which is why I took guidance. And then I'm like, oh, this is a cantrip. I put guidance on everybody
all
the time out of combat.
Yeah.
It's the most useful outside of combat spell I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really handy.
Because it's a cantrip.
Thinking about the different ways to use spells, etc., is really interesting too. And it I don't know if it's in 5e, to be honest, but do you remember, John, that one time we played and I think it was you or Andrew, one of you used glitter dust?
Me. It was me. It's one of my favorite. It's
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And it's beautiful because it's so accidental.
It was because can I tell the story?
Go for it, man. Go for it.
I love this.
I'm interested.
We were sneaking into this guy, and I think Teddy was running the game.
Yep.
And it was a wizard or something like that, and he disappeared, and this monster turned up, and it happened to be a monster with a gaze attack, and I'm like,
oh, no, we didn't know the monster was there because he was.
Yeah, but the guy disappeared. I'm like, well, he's either teleported away or he's become invisible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Glitter dust shows invisible people, so I'll cast glitter dust.
And...
No, I think we did know the monster was there. It happened at the same time. The monster
No,
turned up.
what happened was I remember very clearly that you cast glitter dust and you had no idea the monster was there. You wanted to see if the wizard was still there. The glitter dust revealed the monster, and we all shat ourselves.
As you would.
Being glitter dust, it has the primary effect it's supposed to be blinding people.
Oh yeah.
I never expected at our level because we were quite a we weren't a high level, but we were a medium level party. I never expected glitter dust to actually work its primary thing. I was just using it to show up the invisible thing.
Yeah, and it failed.
But it failed at save and throw and it was blinded. Its only attack was a gaze attack.
It was a gaze attack. It was beautiful. It was the most beautiful, happy accident I've ever seen in all of D&D. And it all happened because you used a spell in a way that wasn't its main use. And you didn't do it intentionally. You weren't playing meta. You didn't know that there was anything there.
There's a term for this.
And it's called, happened to work out.
There's a term for this. It's called accidentally on purpose.
Yeah. It was such a happy thing to happen. When Teddy just turned around and goes, it has a gaze attack, how does that work? And I'm like, what can it see?
Yeah, if it can't see anything, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, the look on his face, he was just devastated.
And then, of course, the fighters in the group just said, they went, yay!
Yay! Everybody run in.
Beat this poor thing.
Okay. Last thing I want to talk about, we didn't go into... Well, actually, I'm going to ask you guys, so what are some of your favourite multi-classing options, I guess, we'll do before we move into the last little topic that I want to talk about. So what are your favourites?
One of my surprising ones.
Surprising one?
Which was the Paladin Rogue.
Paladin Rogue, yeah. So we got that one.
Me well. I mean, it has its limitations as well.
Yeah.
I had to balance what armor he was wearing. In fact, I think most of the time I carried around 2 sets of armor, depending on whether I was being sneaky or attacking.
Yeah.
So he had a balancing thing. But a really surprisingly good one is Paladin Warlock.
Paladin Warlock?
I can see that happening.
Because you get your spells, your pack magic spells back.
True.
On a short rest, and then you can use them for your Divine Smite.
Ooh, I like that, actually.
Well, that works as well as a character development thing. Say you start off as a warlock, and your patron is on the evil or good end of the spectrum, but something happens during the campaign, and for whatever reason, you lose or decide to renounce your pact, but you then end up making a deal with
someone else,
a separate entity, another god, who is at the other end of the spectrum, and you can work that in just as easily. So you can. Well, I think there are very good story tie-in things that can go with some of those choices.
And I think the fun thing I find about Paladins in this 5th edition is that you're actually not tied to gods at all. You don't have to be part of a church. You're
kind of tied to the concept more than anything else.
No, you're tied to your oath. Yeah. And that's what I'm liking about with the one I'm playing. It's the oath. That's the reason he's become a paladin, not a cleric. He's not interested in gods. He's interested in that lawful. You know, I had a talk with one of the other players. We talked about what oath would be best for him to take, and it was all about for his for my character concept.
Mm-hmm.
It had nothing to do with what the oath actually gave you. It was like, well, I'm not going to be an Oath of the Ancients. It doesn't fit in with my character concept kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be this oath or I'll be that oath, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think for me, if I'm going to multi-class, it's probably going to be based less on the overarching class and more on the subclass or the archetype.
Yeah.
You know, and I really want to do something that's a little bit different, a little bit quirky, a little bit unique.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, barbarian blood mage or something.
Yeah,
you know?
I get you. I 100% get that. Yeah. Like, you want to.
If I'm gonna multi-class, it's gonna be for those kinds of quirky,
gonna be
unique
something interesting.
You can't get elsewhere.
Yeah, I think so. Like some of the standard ones are stuff like barbarian fighter or fighter rogue or like monk fighter or, you know, like cleric fighter, paladin fighter, like ones that work well together in ways that they utilize combat abilities. So like if you're heavy melee, you could go like ranger, ranger rogue or ranger sorcerer or ranger wizard, or, you know, there's.
I think a lot of these things don't work as well together as you think, and I think for a lot of things, what you have to do is look at things and go, will the abilities of these two things work together? The major ability of a fighter is its heavy armor.
Yeah.
The major ability of a barbarian is I don't have to
no armor. Exactly.
Yeah. And in fact, you would then lose that major ability of the fighter probably because you couldn't even rage in armor, in the heavy armor, I don't think.
I don't remember.
Is there a limit to what you can rage in?
I don't think there's a limit to the raging. I think it's just you can't. You can wear armor, but then when you want,
but you miss out on the unarmored defense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and so like you miss out on things if you're wearing heavy armor. There goes all your sneakies.
So you're losing out on what makes a fighter a fighter, or what makes a barbarian a barbarian.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is why to me it's more about that archetype.
Yeah, a fighter paladin should work.
Fighter paladin.
I guess
fighter paladin would work fine. I don't think there's.
Or if you're prepared to lose those heavy armor things, fighter can work with most of the classes.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they can. Yeah.
Also, that was a much bigger thing.
Can't rage in heavy armor.
People would, like say, have barbarian level 1, fighter level, ranger, fighter level say 2 or 3. No, let's say fighter level 3, barbarian level 1, and then ranger for the rest of their levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like they worked a little bit. Multi-classing worked a little bit better in some of the earlier editions than it does in this one.
Yeah,
I find.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I think it was fun in. Have any of you guys ever played? Like, I think it was first or second edition.
No, I don't think so. I think first I played. I think was like.
Well, Advanced is first edition, where you.
So I have played it then.
Yeah, where you have multi-class and dual classing, and multi-classing was something that the other races could do. Dual classing was for humans.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were like a dwarf, you had a list of classes that you could play. My first character was a fighter thief. A dwarven fighter thief, so he kept going up. But as a human, you could actually stop being one class and start being another.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of an interesting way to do it.
But you had to stop doing what your first... Like, say you wanted to be a fighter thief, and you got up to 4th level as a fighter. Well, you actually completely stopped, went back to 0 level, 1st level, became a thief. And until you got more experience as a thief than you had as a fighter, you weren't allowed to use your fighter stuff. Otherwise, you didn't get experience.
God, that sounds a bit limited.
But then once you got above it, you could use both abilities.
Yeah.
Speaking of older editions and character creation and that sort of thing, one thing that I just have to point out that I really kind of miss from 3.5 was the ability to play monster races. It made such a big difference, and you had such a wide variety of things that you could then do. So, in 3.5, everyone said, don't play a bard, don't play a bard. So I turned around and I made a Lilith, which was a monster class in 3.5. And then Lilith is a large creature, and it's very strong naturally. So I was an extremely strong bard that just went around putting things to sleep and then punching them in the face and that sort of thing. There were drawbacks from being a large character, but it was so much more interesting to play. It was so much fun, and I really, really miss that ability to play those monster races.
They are introducing like more and more non-humanoid races slowly, and it really depends on the settings. But looking at like the new Thurs setting, they've got centaurs in there, they've got minotaurs in there as well, and also like Volo's Guide and some of the other ones have some other.
If you have the money,
well.
or if you can find somewhere that will give you the information, you can actually play a lot of classes that most people would consider monsters. Like you can be a bugbear, you can play a goblin, you can play a hobgoblin.
They're all in Volo's Guide.
A kobold, even.
Yeah, they're in Volo's Guide to play. Yeah.
So you can do that. It's just sometimes it doesn't make sense for your character story-wise to be with a group if they're this thing.
Oh, yeah,
True.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, so that's where the trouble comes in.
It has to work with the party.
And there's also the reincarnation spell.
True.
Yes.
That's true. Yep.
One of my favorite things I ever had in a game that I was DMing. Again, it was an early edition. I think it was 2nd edition. And my brother was playing a wizard who got reincarnated as a kobold. Nice. And it took him a while, but he eventually found a way to get shape changed back into the human that he originally was. And after that, he just had a thing against kobolds.
As you do.
Yeah.
I can understand that. Valia's kind of picked up a thing for turtles after being a turtle for about an hour of gameplay.
It was like It was like a minute. It was like less than a minute, probably.
Not
in game.
It was a minute in the fight. It was an hour out of game.
Okay, yeah. Okay, out of game. It was like an hour real time. It was like a minute in actual game. It was like a hot minute.
Yeah. I think we've all come to the conclusion that it all comes down to what the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you feel about the character.
What you do, how you do it all comes down to the character. I mean,
and how it works with the party.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even with the classing, it's how it should be. There should be character reasons for why you're multi-classing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can start these off if you want to play a multi-class character. Like, say you want to play a multi-class character. You're going to go 2 levels of fighter, then you're going to go 2 levels of something else.
Role play that shit from the start, and then you can lead into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, play a fighter. If you want to be a fighter wizard, you play a fighter who carries books around and reads all the time and is trying to learn about magic.
Yep. He's studying. Yeah. You can implement those.
Take the sage background.
Yep. You can implement all those sorts of things from the very beginning if that's what you plan to do. If you don't know that's what you want to do, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. But you can always talk to DM, be like, I'm thinking about multiclassing into this. They'll say like, okay, well, let's try and set that character on that path, and then maybe next level you'll have the opportunity to do that. I think it's.
But it shouldn't just be because I'm level 6 and there's nothing else I want to do in that.
Yeah. It should very much be like, the character.
And it's okay for the player to say, I'm level 6, there's not much else I want to do in Bard.
Yeah.
But you've got to make it for the character as well.
Yeah. The character should feel that urge and be drawn to a different aspect of life.
Yeah, like that's another thing with Valia, for example. So, one of the reasons that I want to switch from Barbarian with her is because the ancient spirits that are part of her archetype. At a certain point, at level 10, she's going to be able to summon those spirits. And then her backstory is going to kind of go away. And yes, that could be taken into the story. But it really depends on how long the game is going to go for. If it's going to go for a long time, I can eventually go back to Barbarian. And then it'll be a more appropriate point for her to be able to summon those spirits, find out who her father is, and then move on with that character arc. And I just don't want to do that too soon,
No, I get that.
And if it's going to be a shorter campaign, I don't want to achieve that necessarily, because then... there's nowhere to go for the character, etc.
Yeah.
It also depends on how much you want your this mystery to be part of your character. Do you want to solve it or not? Because if you don't want to solve it, you summon your relatives and you find they're all from your mother's side. None of your father's relatives have turned up.
None of them are there.
I mean, the point is they should know who my father is. Like, otherwise, what's the point of having...
Or what if your mother doesn't know? Or what if your mother's alive, but your grandfather died before you were born?
Revelations.
So he might literally not know who your father was. Well, I know you're my granddaughter, but no, you weren't born when I died, so I don't know who your father is.
Right. I mean, and that's another thing that could happen once I got to that level eventually. Yeah. But, for the moment, I just kind of want to avoid that and take a different route, go a little further into the Amazon culture, get that arcane archer type.
Yeah, sounds good.
That I think would be a really good choice for her.
Yeah. And again, that's a really cool thing to do, both on a meta level and on a character level.
Yeah.
And because it works on both levels, it's really, really cool.
Your character's like, I don't want to deal with my past. I'm just going to focus on doing this arcane stuff.
And even doing some things that don't work together, like very well, like if you're playing a fighter barbarian, they can still work if it's part of the character concept.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I'm doing it.
There's no reason to say that.
It's purely the character concept that's driving this.
Yeah. And there's nothing to say, there's nothing in the rules that says you get plate mail armor just because you become a fighter at 10th.
No, you still don't have the you still don't have the armor.
I still don't have armor. I'm becoming a fighter just for the other shit, not for the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of why I'm looking at the arcane archer archetype, because it's less of that in combat fighting, that melee fighting, and more of the ranged fighting, which is less dependent on armor.
Yep. I mean, you'll still have your unarmored defense from being a barbarian, so like that doesn't just go away because you multi-class or anything like that too. So you've still got it there if something does run up to you, and you've still got rage, so you can still halve the damage that you take while you're angry.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of very much my style. It's not necessarily the single most efficient way to multi-class and to absolutely max everything out, but it's still effective and it suits the characterization.
I just had this image of a wizard that got sick of being beaten up all the time, so he takes one level as a fighter just so he can get armor and sword.
Yep. Sounds like a pretty good idea.
Stuff. I'm mostly a wizard, but you walk up and hit him and where the hell did the plate mail armor come from?
Yeah. I like that.
So now I'm just imagining Ron in Wizard's chest just climbing into one of those suits of armor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Exactly. That could be it.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this one up here. There was a couple other things I wanted to talk about. We did actually sort of cover character development in terms of leveling up and in terms of playing through the adventure, but we kind of didn't really get to explore the feats, which I would like to do in a future episode for sure. But I think we're going to leave it there for the night. So, thanks Twitch chat for hanging out. It was awesome to have some people in the chat and talking. And this video will probably go up on YouTube in a couple of weeks, so keep an eye out on the channel. I'll be putting updates. If you haven't already, follow me along on social media, on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'll be putting a tweet out when the podcast goes up on YouTube. And you guys can, ask any questions you might think of later. Tweet at me, at Mitch Akid, or or jump on the YouTube channel, leave some comments on the podcast video. And we will leave it there for this evening. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Everybody says bye. Bye. Thank you very much, everybody. Peace.